Hello and good evening to every one of you. Welcome to the Diaspora Conversations. And today we will be discussing land in Ghana, how to acquire land, how to understand the documentation that's needed, how to register land, and just what's going on with land in Ghana. Over and over again, in my role as the head of diaspora engagement for the Guba Diaspora Network, we interact with diasporans from all over the world. And one of the main issues that people tend to want to find out more about, or one of the main areas, is land. How can I get land in Ghana? What's the processes I need to do or to go through in order to buy land? I want to establish a guest house. I want to build a hotel. Where are the best places and locations to effectively do these things? So today we will be speaking with Mr. James Dadson, who is the Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission. Just to let you know that we will be inviting people to ask questions, or we will be having various questions. But unfortunately, and just to apologize on our behalf, we had a few technical issues. So we had to kind of abort the first live, and we had to send out a new link. So thank you for your patience. And once again, apologies. For those of you joining us, could you let us know where you are joining from? We want to know, what kinds of locations people are actually connecting with us from. Or if you are having any more issues, please let us know so that we can resolve this. Mr. Dadson, the Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission, is ready and waiting and looking forward to engaging with you guys. Washington, D.C. Okay, connected to culture. Lovely, excellent. And Carla, hi Carla, Washington, D.C. Brilliant. Thank you. So before we start, just to go over a bit more about the Guba Diaspora Network. So the Guba Diaspora Network is an initiative under the Guba Enterprise. Okay, so the Guba Enterprise, for those of you that do not know, is an organization that supports work in the diaspora or for the diasporan community. We aim to support and do things to celebrate, recognize achievements and some of the positive things that are coming out of Africa. And the ethos is that we need to work together in order to grow, unite and build Africa. And it's not going to be anyone else that does it but us, the diasporan community. Wherever we are in the world, we need to bring our talents, our skills, our abilities to help Mother Africa grow and develop. There are lots of things happening on the continent, lots of things happening in various countries, lots more that we can do. And yes, we cannot sort out everything. There are loads of things that are not going so well, but we can bring our skills, our expertise, and our desires to work together and help build even better Mother Africa. There is a lot of positive things going on, but there's so much more that we can do. Okay, so what we will do is I will very shortly introduce Mr. Dadson. And firstly, he's going to explain a bit about his office, what the Lands Commission in Ghana does, the remit, what areas they cover. And then I'm going to speak to him about some of the processes and, other things around land. Please do feed your questions in. If you have questions, please do put them in the chat. We will, try and go through as many of them and try and get them answered as much as possible. If not, we will put up a means of communication so they can also be followed up if we're not able to answer them on today's session. Okay, excellent. Okay, good. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're actually going to start, and I'm going to introduce to you Mr. Dadson. So, just before I bring him on, or just before he comes on, Mr. Dadson was recently in the UK, and he came with the Goober Diaspora Network on a Goober Lands Tour 2022. And during that engagement, he was able to meet the community. He was able to understand their concerns, understand their needs, understand their desires, and really get a chance to explain how things are progressing in Ghana when it comes to lands. People are able to ask personal questions. People were able to find out a bit more about the general system in place. And through that tour, we were able to engage with the community in London and Bristol. And it was a great opportunity because I think speaking to people online is one way, but actually going out, meeting people, understanding their needs, and being able to explain things better. I think that gave a different feel, and people definitely appreciated that engagement. Atlanta, excellent. Atlanta, I love Atlanta. I love Atlanta. Hopefully, I'll be back there again soon. So, S. Bradshaw, thank you for joining us from Atlanta. Okay, so I will see if I can. Oops. Okay, let me just get this on. Okay, excellent. Good. Good evening, Mr. Dadson.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you today?
Oh, very well.
Excellent.
I'm glad we finally back on.
Yes. After the few technical hitches and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah.
Excellent. So here we are on the Diaspora Conversations, and we are engaging with the members. Generally, the members, there are a few more other people that are also connected, but we have a community, as you're aware, of diasporans from all over the world effectively. And what would be good is if you could, number one, explain who you are and who your office is and what you do.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. My name is James Dadson. I'm the Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission in Ghana, and we're responsible for all the administrative work at the Lands Commission Secretariat. So I'm head of management. But the Lands Commission is essentially the public institution in Ghana solely responsible for the management of all public lands in Ghana and also for the registration of title to land in Ghana. So it's important to know that you cannot buy land and say that I'm going to register it in any other institution except the Lands Commission. It's a constitutional mandate given to the Commission by Article 258 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, and also the Lands Commission's own Act, Act 767 of 2008. We also provide advisory services to public institutions, the government itself, the district assemblies, and then the various traditional authorities on the management of their lands. And so essentially, these are the functions that we perform as a Lands Commission. The Lands Commission, first, there's the National Board, which is a 25-member board with representatives from each of the 16 regions in Ghana. And apart from the 16 regions, we also have a representative from the Ghana Bar Association, the National House of Chiefs, the Environmental Protection Agency, the agency responsible for town and country planning, that is the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority. And then we have the Association of Farmers and Fishermen also represented on the National Lands Commission. Then we have the Ghana Institution of Surveyors represented. Then, of course, there's a chairman and then the executive secretary who are all members of the Lands Commission. That is the national. Then you come to the 16 regions of Ghana. Each of these 16 regions has the Regional Lands Commission with the chairman and the representatives of those that I've mentioned above. So at the regional level, instead of having the national level has regional representatives, the regional level has district representatives. So each of the districts in all the regions has representation on the Regional Lands Commission. And when it comes to our services, land registration takes place in each of the 16 regions of Ghana. So if you are in the Greater Accra region, which is the capital region of Ghana, and you purchase land in Accra or any of the towns and villages in Greater Accra, you will register it in Accra. If you are in Kumasi, in Ashanti region, and you buy land in that region, you register it in our regional office in Kumasi. And so is the case with all the other regions. With the new regions that have been set up in Ghana, we have offices opened in all the 6 new regions. So if you are in the Western North region, which used to be part of the Western region, you buy land in that region, you will register it in our office as a also. Same as OT, which used to be part of Volta region. If you buy land in OT region, you register it in our office in the regional capital known as Dambai. And so that is how administratively the Lands Commission is structured. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much. So what I'm hearing is that there are lots of different people or entities that own land in Ghana. And each region is responsible for managing that land in Ghana as well. When it comes to, so say for example, I am an African American. I've come to Ghana, or I've heard about buying land in Ghana. What's the processes that I need to go through in order to acquire land in Ghana? Somebody that may not be attached to Ghana as much, but is interested in buying land. What's the first sort of steps that you would initiate for them to go through?
Thank you. First of all, you acquiring the land for a purpose. So if it is a farmland, for example, that you're interested in Ghana, we say that there's no land without an owner. So every land has an owner. So you will first of all approach the owners of the land. They will give you copies of their land documents, and then because the Lands Commission is the only entity that is a repository of land records, all registered land transactions, you will come to the Lands Commission to conduct what is known as an official search. That search will reveal the ownership status of the land that you intend to acquire. And if it turns out that it is the right person that you are dealing with, or the right family that you are dealing with per our records, you will also need a confirmation from the assembly regarding the use of the land, because just as every land has an owner, every land is also meant for one use or the other. Even if it can be a forest reserve, it can be land zone for residential or commercial or agricultural purposes, as the case may be. And so when you have satisfied yourself with all of these, then you can proceed to transact with the owner of the land, and the necessary documentation will take place prepared by a solicitor. You will sign it with your witnesses. Then, having signed the document prepared by the solicitor, you will submit it to the Lands Commission. If it is in the central region, you go to Cape Coast and submit it to our office for the necessary registration to take place. Let me say that the land document that is prepared to be registered by you, every land document has a site plan attached to it. Our law requires that the site plan is prepared by a licensed surveyor, and it has to be certified by the director of survey or his representative in the region, and then it will be admitted into our records. So these days we call it a barcoded plan. The barcoded plan simply means that you prepare a site plan. The site plan is prepared by the surveyor, and because that he has picked up the data prior to preparing the plan, this is endorsed by the regional surveyor and next to the document, then it is submitted to our office for registration. If, let me say, in Ghana, we run two registration systems. We have the title registration, which is only in Greater Accra. Then we have the deeds registration, which is in the 15 other regions of Ghana. Indeed, in the central part of Kumasi, we do title registration, but generally in that region and the other regions, we do deed registration. We hope that in the near future, the whole country will be covered will be declared as a registration area, and then title registration, land title certificates will be issued for all lands that are submitted for registration in the Lands Commission. So that is the process that you have to go through to before you buy land and you submit it for registration. In a lot of situations, people rather go ahead and transact, they negotiate, they buy the land, they prepare the documents, and because they haven't conducted a search prior to the purchase, they submit the documents to our office and the document will hit the wall. Maybe you bought the land from a private person. It turns out that the land belongs to the state for another purpose. And then that means that we cannot register it. And even if it is possible to register it through a regularization process, you pay a very heavy penalty before it is done. So it's very important that everybody, before you acquire land, you come to the offices of the Lands Commission to conduct what we call the official search to ensure that you are dealing with the rightful entity before you buy the land.
I think I'm on mute. Thank you for that. I think that's a wealth of information that you've just shared. Can I just become clear on this? Is that information available online on the website, kind of giving steps or some sort of direction and guidance? Because some of this information is great, but we need to make sure that it's available for people that are kind of doing a research before they come.
Oh yes, it's on the website of the Lands Commission.
Okay.
www.lc.gov.gh,
Okay.
and so you can access the information. All the services that we render, everything is online.
Okay, we'll put the website up as well. Just a few questions from your first comment. People are asking, is there a cost for the ownership search of lands when you do the search? Is there a cost associated to that?
Yes, there is, and the cost depends on the land size. So for a standard plot, because the Lands Commission has different offices and they hold different records, you will conduct, we call it a consolidated search. So the search will be conducted in 3 different offices of the Lands Commission. We know that as part of our reforms moving forward, all our searches will be done using the land information system. But whilst we are not there yet, the search is done in 3 different sections of the Lands Commission, and then you get a consolidated search. And for all of that, you pay in total 155 Ghana cedis, 155 Ghana cedis for the consolidated search for a plot of land, and it moves up depending on the land size that you're buying.
Okay, thank you. So generally, what's a time scale when it comes to certificate title registration?
Well, it That generally it should not take more than 3 months,
Okay.
but where that sometimes there are challenges and it could go even beyond a year. But if I have a certificate and I'm transferring to you, then it can even take us about a month to complete the transfer process. But for the first registration, because it goes through a statutory publication process, and we give it time for people to raise any caveat if there is, um, and the other processes that it has to go through, conducting searches in the other divisions. So that is where we are at the 3 months. But as I said earlier, with the reforms that we are embarking on, all of these processes will be drastically reduced. But I know that people have issues, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 3 years, and even beyond. And there are reasons why these things can happen. Sometimes you submit a document, one signature is missing, we're looking for you. The contact address that you give us is not really yours. Somebody submitted it on your behalf, an agent or anybody, and we cannot reach you. And so if you live abroad, we have instances where when the person on his annual vacation to Ghana will come and follow up before the correction is done. Throughout the 1 year that you haven't come to Ghana, the document is still marking time. We keep
Yes.
it in view until you arrive. So these are some of the challenges that we face and that cause the delays. But generally, and then for the deed registration, which is what takes place in the other regions, we look at a minimum of 14 days, 14 days, and then we are through with it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay, excellent. I mean, as you've been talking, there have been various terminologies being used, and it would be helpful if we could maybe ask for a breakdown of some of them. So we've got questions. Please explain indenture. What's an indenture? What's a deed? Um, what's the title? If you could explain them.
Okay. The indenture
Mhm.
is the document that spells out the agreement between two parties.
Okay.
Okay, so I own the land, my title is recited in this document. There's provision made for us to sign, the seller and the buyer, with witnesses. And then the site plan is also, the dimensions of the site plan is also what we call the schedule, is also prepared and also added to the document. And if it's a transaction, a lease meaning that I'm taking your land for a certain number of years,
Yeah.
99 years or 50 years, there are certain covenants. So, for example, you have to use it as a residential land. You have to pay ground rent of a certain amount every year, um, and such other clauses. We call them the lease covenants. All of these put together will be incorporated in the indenture. It is a legal document prepared by solicitors. So the indenture is a land document that is prepared and is used to effect a transfer between one party, that is the seller, and the buyer, which is submitted to the Lands Commission for registration. Then when that registration has been completed and you come and do a search, it will show first in the name, we call it the root of title. It's showing the root from family A to Mr. B, who now has sold to Mr. C. So if a prospective buyer, Mr. D, comes to do a search, all of these transactions from A to B to C will reveal on his official search result, and he knows that yes, I'm dealing with the rightful person on this piece of land.
Okay, excellent. Um, we've got a number of questions coming up, and I think from what I'm seeing from the engagement is that people really want to try and understand the processes. People are interested in land, of course, when it comes to Ghana. But people want to understand how to mitigate against some of the issues that people face. Another question: how long is the process of registration supposed to take? And is it appropriate to ask the surveyor to do the registration on your behalf?
If the surveyor is a private surveyor, he can submit the document on your behalf, and then he will do the necessary follow-up. But when the registration process is completed, you would have to give him a power of attorney or some authorization before he can come and sign for the document. Otherwise, you would have to come yourself and sign for the document. So a surveyor can actually submit it on your behalf and do the necessary follow-up. Now, the first part of the question, asking how long it takes for the registration. I think I mentioned that earlier. We run two types of registration. The one that's the deed, which is the land document, or a transaction relating to land, is done in the 15 regions of Ghana. Accra has been declared as a title registration district. And so when you submit a document for registration in Greater Accra region, what you get as the output is your land title certificate. So sometimes we get people asking the question that I went to register my land in the Western region and I didn't get a land title certificate. The reason is that the Western region has not been declared as a title registration area. And so we still do the deed system. It is only in Greater Accra and the central part of Kumasi, Dum and Ridge areas, which we have that service in existence.
So it's only certain regions where you can actually get the land title at the moment.
Only in Greater Accra and just as the central part of Kumasi. So the rest of Ashanti region still is under the deed registration or land registration system. But all of Greater Accra, whether you're in Pram or Dodua or Afenya or Tema or Accra, it is land title certificate.
Okay. Is there plans to expand it and make some of the other regions title deeds available there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, actually, we are required to do that. And so we are in the process of declaring the entire country as a registration area. So no matter where you are, you submit a document, you apply for registration, you will get a title certificate in any part of the country.
Excellent. And I think this probably leads on to another question that I have. I mean, we live in an age where technology is used to kind of help with some of these processes. Can you talk about, in terms of what the current scenario is with the Lands Commission in terms of maintaining records and so forth, and any sort of processes, electronic processes that are being implemented to help facilitate some of these land processes?
As you know, the whole world is in a digital age, and Ghana is no exception. And so we have commenced the process of automating all our records. Indeed, if you went for a service in the 6 new regions, what we have done is that we have scanned and digitized all the existing records as far as those regions are concerned. So everything is processed within an automated environment in the 6 new regions. I'm talking of Western North, Savannah, Northeast, OT, um, um, yeah, OT. And so these are the areas that we have the new regions in existence. You register your documents in an automated environment. Now, with the rest of the country, we are piloting. So, starting with Accra, there are 10% of Accra has been fully digitized, and that includes Rage, Dansuman, Odoko, Cantonment Airport, all of those areas. So when you submit a document, the processing is done in a fully automated environment until we get to the final stage where your land title certificate is issued for you. Now, one other service which I talked about earlier, which is conducting an official search. The site plan, you can scan and submit it online for the search, and the results can also be sent to you by the same means. You will get your results also online. And then for those who are lessees or who occupy government land or government estates, like East Legon and cantonments and airport, you can actually, you have to pay ground rent every year. You can actually pay your rent online using the Ghana.gov services. You pay that, you go online, and then you can make payment. You don't have to come to the offices to effect payment. So these are some of the modest measures that we have put in place. But we are going to move and go fully digital, engaging the private sector that is coming on board with the technical expertise as well
Mm.
as the financing of this
Okay.
whole transformation agenda to ensure
Mm.
that the entire country goes fully digital. This is something that we hope to move into full gear in a matter of months from now.
Mm. I know some few months ago, and this is, I guess, a lead up question to that. I know some few months ago when we had the rain, there was that image of the papers on the floor, and people panicked, and so forth. And I guess it's something that people are always concerned about. But I don't know if you want to make a comment on that scenario as well.
Yes, if you would have observed that nobody said that our work or our services had been disrupted,
Okay.
even when that happened.
Okay.
We still worked because the few paper records
Mhm.
that were affected by the rain, some of which were totally destroyed,
Mm.
were all in boxes that had been properly labeled and barcoded. We already had backups, we had scanned them. So all we
Okay.
did was to use the barcode details and reprint and get new boxes and put them in. In actual fact, there were just few boxes that had been left on the floor
Hmm.
because they were waiting to complete work on the next Monday. And
Oh,
then when
okay.
it rained, yes, but the boxes themselves are on shelves that have stands, and
Mm-hmm.
so the rainwater could not even get to the stands. That is why it affected only a few. We tried to salvage it. That's why we brought it out there
Mm-hmm.
to dry it out in the sun. But unfortunately, it sent out the wrong signals. So we actually brought in the media, took them into our records room, which is completely out of bounds, to show
Mm.
them that indeed the records are all here. And
Yeah.
what we have lost, we have
Mm.
called for reprints, and work is still going. And so we want to assure the public that that kind of situation will not show its ugly head again. In
Mm.
actual fact, it happened at an office that we had finished one phase of construction and we are occupied, and we
Mm.
were on the second phase. And
Okay.
so that's where rainwater was able to leak through. But even there, they sealed it off, and then everything is fine. I mean, we still had rains after that, and there was no unfortunate incidents since. So we are relying very much on technology. We have those records. We have our backups systems in place, and so there's no cause for alarm
Okay.
um, as far as that is concerned. Yes.
Thank you for that, because I do know that people were concerned. I think the image that went out on social media and in the newspapers or wherever was that, all our land documents had gone and so forth. So it's actually reassuring hearing that, number one, there were backups, and number two, it was actually only a small section of the documents, and not, all of them, as people felt. So going back to the process of registering land, I think you mentioned a bit about the cost. Question here: what is the total cost from start to end to register land with the Lands Commission? I'm just trying to work out if we've actually touched that question. And I know that you mentioned, but are there any additional costs in the whole process of registration?
Yes, yes. What the first figure that I put out, that is for the official search fee, the consolidated search. But when you submit your document for registration, in actual fact, our fees and charges are statutory, and they are all online, and they're also available in our offices. So that's not a problem. You can tell that if you have a parcel of land
Mm-hmm.
and you come in to register,
Mm-hmm.
if we include the stamp duty that you have to pay,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you have to pay a stamp duty, which is like a tax on the document that you have coming to register. A surveyor prepares the barcoded site plan, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a fee to it, averaging 1,200 Ghana cedis. The stamp duty depends on the location of the land. So
Okay.
every area has a different value. Okay. So we don't have a fixed figure for that. So it depends on the area. Then we have the processing fee itself, and then the plotting fee. So I think that on the average, with an amount of 2,000 Ghana cedis, a first registration should suffice, should be enough for first registration.
Mm-hmm.
But if, for example, I have my land and I've built on it, and then you come and I transfer to you, the
Mm-hmm.
stamp duty the stamp duty is on the value of the entire development. So you will see that that figure can shoot up because they will have to value it and then determine the stamp duty based on the development. So what you pay for a bare land is not the same as what you pay for a developed property.
Developed
In the
land.
same way, the land use also, if what you pay for residential is not the same as what you pay for an agricultural land.
Mm. And you touched on it briefly. What kind of determines the value of the land? Because one thing that many of our diaspora community come to us about is the fact that, number one, in Ghana we've got huge prices when it comes to land, when it comes to, of course, the real estate industry and so forth. But what kind of factors are there that determine the price or the value placed on the land in Ghana?
Yes. The same factors that apply in the UK and any other place,
Mm,
the same factors apply here. It's a pure market um, mechanics. So
yeah.
if you go to Enfield,
Mm-hmm.
and the values in Enfield are probably not the same as the values in Kensington.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so in the same way, if you on in Ghana, the land values or property values in the airport are determined purely by the market.
What am I?
So that, yes, by the market. So it's an open market system, and so if land values in airport are, say, um, $1 million or 500 or a million pounds,
Mm-hmm.
um, that is what is offered on the market,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a willing buyer and there's a
Mm-hmm.
willing seller. they negotiate, and then they agree on a price. It
Okay.
enters the database, and that becomes the going rate for the particular area. We've had a system where in some places rents for properties have even gone as high as $6,000 a month. But currently, the same market for those places, we're looking at 3,000 or even 2,000, because a lot of properties have been developed in these areas. And so the values, because when you have excess supply, you know what happens. And so this is a pure market situation, and it's the market forces that determine how much a property is worth, how much it is valued, and how much it is sold or how much it is bought. So that is my explanation to that. Unfortunately, we cannot interfere with that. That's what the market is saying. If Mr. A sells his property in one area for $1,000, and then Mr. B also in a similar location and similar characteristics, obviously you're looking at a figure around that same figure that the other one was sold for. Of course, other factors come into play. What is the unexpired term? So if I have a lease for 80 years of a property, and my value is expected to be higher than one that has maybe 15 years to run on a leasehold property. So these are some of the things, and of course, professional land administrators, professional land economists are there to advise on what is fair to quote for a sale or a purchase.
Thank you. I think you've touched on something which I think our diasporan community should really understand and be aware of a bit more. In terms of the lease, you've
Yeah.
mentioned 50 years, you mentioned 99 years. Can you explain that a bit more, and who it applies to and how it's implemented?
Yeah. So our law, of course, that has been even from the Constitution, but the Land Act, which came into being in the year 2020, Act 1036, spells out the that if it is state land or stool land or family land, stool land meaning land that is administered by the traditional authorities, our chiefs, you can only give a lease. A lease meaning something that is terminable, it has an end. So for residential, typically we are looking at 99-year lease. It means that if you go and got a land from a stool or a family, but some of them also can say that ours is a 50-year lease at any particular time. But typically, for residential, it is 99 years. For commercial and industrial, it is 50 years at any particular time, and it's also subject to renewal. And so you would have a lease over estate or stool or family land. There are a few instances where some families used to give out freehold transactions. So freehold meaning that you own it in perpetuity, you own it forever. I have bought it and it is mine forever. If I pass it on to my children, it is theirs forever. This is not one with a definite end, like a leasehold interest. So that is the difference. But so if I have a freehold interest, I can transfer that freehold interest to another person. Or out of that, I can give a leasehold interest for a certain number of years, and at the end of that period, it reverts to me. That is as far as individual lands are concerned today. But for the state and the stool, as I said, you only have a lease for a specified period, which is subject to renewal. Now, because of the audience that we are addressing, it's important to know that for foreigners, you can only get a 50-year lease at any particular time. And so if you are a foreigner and you are married to a Ghanaian, that still doesn't change your title or the tenure or your term. You will still get a 50-year lease unless you are a citizen of Ghana. If you are a non-citizen of Ghana, you will get a 50-year lease at any particular time, subject to renewal. So we need to make that point clear. So
Okay.
for Ghanaians can get as high as 99-year lease if it is residential, and then 50-year lease if it is commercial or industrial.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. A few questions coming out of that. If a person is interested in land that seems to be disputed, how can one do a search of that land, sorry, at the Lands Commission without any documentation of that land?
If the land is under dispute, my
Mm,
understanding is that there's some litigation and there's a case in court,
mm,
or two parties have clashed on the land and the case is under investigation at the Property Fraud Unit of the Ghana Police Service.
mm,
So that is the only way that we can determine that there is there is a dispute over a piece of land. Sometimes too, it can be land belonging to a certain stool or a certain family, but because there's a fight as to who is the head of that family, because the head of the family has to sign the land document for you. And if
mm,
there's no head of that family because they are fighting, then obviously there's a dispute. In
mm,
that situation, you will know there's no point coming to conduct a search. If you conduct a search, it may likely show that it is in the name of family A,
mm, mm,
that family. But you
mhm,
cannot get any document because you don't know which of the parties or which of the factions is a legitimate one
mm,
until maybe they have resolved their own issue. So in that case, you will know and you will not even attempt to submit anything. But in a lot of situations, when a case is in court, the Lands Commission is notified, or the Lands Commission is even brought in as a party to the suit, so that we know that there's a dispute over this land. We note it in our records until such time that there's a ruling by the court
mm.
that determines that this land is for family A. And then that judgment is also recorded in our office.
Okay.
So if any document is coming in, that document must recite the judgment, that this judgment belonging to this family is which we have lodged in our records. And it is that family that is selling the land to you. So that when
Okay.
it comes in, the document will go through. If it's a document from any other party, we will advise you to go to the rightful owners and have documents done. So that is how we deal with the
Yeah.
disputed cases.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because of course, as you mentioned, land is owned by lots of different people, and there are disputes out there. I mean, it. I don't know if this is a question for you or some of the legal systems in Ghana, but are there things that we can do to try and avoid or try and shorten the length of these disputes, because some of them go on for years, and it becomes a longer drawn out scenario. Is there something that, I don't know, can be done to avoid as much as possible?
Yes, and actually something is being done. Now we have land courts.
Okay.
So these courts are just dedicated to settling land disputes,
Well,
because previously the land was lumped up with all other cases, and
mm,
so it was taking forever.
mhm,
But now we have the land courts,
mm,
and we have judges who have been trained or who have specialized
mm,
in land cases. So all the land cases go to them. And because they have an appreciation of the technicalities involved with land, they are able to dispose of these cases much faster than it used to be. Of course, some other circumstances or some other evidence can be brought up to delay a certain process in the course, but the way that we are resolving it is to ensuring that we have courts that are not mixed up with other civil cases, but just dedicated to land cases, and we call them the land courts, and there are several of them.
Excellent, thank you. I think that's a nice humbling thing to hear, to know that there is a special court to try and resolve and help deal with land issues. A follow-up question from the leasing. Somebody was asking what happens at the end of the 50-year lease period.
Yes, I said that is subject to renewal. Indeed, in a lot of documents, there's even a renewal clause that may be 6 months to the end of the period. If you intend to renew your lease, you can serve notice. And the law says that your landlord or the lessor cannot unreasonably withhold or refuse to grant you a renewal. There are circumstances under which you may not be successful with a renewal. So, for example, you have a 50-year lease. Throughout the 50 years, you never paid your ground rent. Throughout the 50 years, you didn't really do much on the land. The place is overgrown with weeds and causing nuisance in the area. Then come the end of 50 years, you show your face that I'm coming to renew my lease. Obviously, you've gone contrary to some of the lease covenants, and the lease will not be renewed for you. You may go to court, but the court will look at the evidence available, and you're not likely to succeed under those circumstances. But generally, at the end of the period, it will be renewed for you.
Okay, thank you. In regards to town planning, if we want to call it that, there seem to be various issues from various different people about individuals not building or not having the right land demarcation. Is there a guide that everybody is supposed to follow and people just don't follow it? I mean, what's some of the issues or confusion around that aspect?
Yes, indeed, we are supposed to have approved layouts or plans or zoning regulations under the management of the district assemblies in all our areas. So every parcel is supposed to conform to the approved planning scheme of a particular area. But invariably, you find out that people go and they see any piece of land and they go onto the land and they begin to build. And it may turn out that you are building in an area reserved or zone as a road or zone as an open space or zone for a use that is different from what you are developing. So we always advise that people should ensure that they get planning, they get a building permit before they start building, so that you don't go and build in a forest reserve, or you don't go and build in an open space, or you don't go and build in an area reserved as a sanitary site or an area that is for some other purpose. So that is the position. There are regulations regarding what you can use your land for. Even if you own the land, you cannot just get up and use it for any other purpose. It has to be a use that is in conformity with the planning scheme of the particular area that your land is.
I'm muted. Excellent. Sorry, I was just looking to put your website up on the screen, just so that if people want to find out more information, they know where to go. I think, I mean, that there are so many more comments and questions around land, and I'm sure people have their individual questions. But of course, we can't answer all of them. I think it's important that we get the fundamentals of understanding how the land system works in Ghana and what effectively people should do to try and mitigate against issues and follow the correct processes. I mean, as you know, a diasporan, as somebody that maybe is only now trying to engage with Ghana and you know, set up business and maybe do some investments, and they're looking at land, what would you say are, let's say, I don't know, maybe 3 main things that people should focus on when it comes to engaging in the whole land process?
First of all, is the need to conduct an official search in the records of the Lands Commission. And then secondly, is the need to ensure that what you intend to do on the land, you want to build a hotel, you want to build a factory, that the the subject land is actually zoned for that purpose. And we also encourage prospective developers, especially if you are going into an area that has existing developments, to do the ground validation to ensure that the people that are on the ground that have developed trace their roots, or whoever sold to them, from the same family or from the same individual. Then you know that you're operating within a safety net. If you did all of these 3 key essentials, you are more than likely to have a smooth transaction and to and have your land without any trouble.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will be rounding up now. Firstly, going back, apologies for the late start. We did have a few technical issues. What we are putting in the chat or on the screen very shortly is the website for the Ghana Lands Commission. And if there's further information or you'd like to get in touch with anyone at the Ghana Lands Commission, you may do so. Also, if people want to find out more about the Diaspora, the Guba Diaspora Network, feel free to email the Diaspora Transition Network at gmail.com, and you will be able to understand a bit more about what we do when we talk about these diaspora conversations or when we conduct these conversations, because there are lots of different areas that people want to find out more about. And it's all about making sure that we hear from the professionals directly, those that are involved in engaging with people that want to buy land or register land, and those that know how the systems work properly and work well in Ghana. So I think we're going to okay, yes, we've got it on the screen now. So www.lc.gov.gh. So that's the website for the Lands Commission in Ghana. So if you do have any further questions or engagements, if not contacting the Lands Commission, you can send us an email, and our email address is diaspora transition network at gmail.com. Okay, Mr. Dadson, thank you, thank you, thank you ever so much for having time out, taking time out. I can see that you're still in your office, and I really appreciate the fact that you've been able to stay behind. I'm sure you've had a busy day, but thank you. These sessions are so, so important in guiding our community, in helping our community, and in making sure that we get things done the correct way. You know, I'm sure there's lots and lots more questions, but for now, I think we will end it here. So thank you ever so much for your time and, you know, just sharing your expertise with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, guys, thank you ever so much. We are going to end it here, but please do send us an email, write a comment. If there's any other questions or any further information that you require, do contact us at Diaspora Transition Network at gmail.com, or you can contact the Lands Commission directly at www.lc.gov.gh. Sorry. Okay, so good night, everyone. Thank you ever so much. Mr.
Right,
Dadson, God bless
right,
you. Bye
right,
bye.
right.